Daniel Reeve sat in his small house on Earth, sipping hot tea and watching the rain fall outside. It had been many years since he had flown among the stars. Once he was a space explorer, brave and full of curiosity. Now he was a teacher. Taught young students about star maps, ship engines, and the dangers of space. He thought his days of adventure were over, but everything changed. One quiet evening, a strange sound came from his old communication device. It was dusty and silent for years. Daniel almost didn't notice it, but when he checked the screen, he sat up straight. His hands began to shake. A message was waiting. It was from the Valari Empire, a powerful alien race that rarely contacted humans. Daniel opened the message. To Daniel Reeve, human explorer, you are invited to the capital world of Kelthar Prime. You are summoned by royal command. Transport has been arranged. This is a matter of honor. Signed, Her Majesty. Queen Ayla of the Velaridaniel stared at the name. Ayla. His mind went back 20 years to a broken ship, a wounded girl, and a choice that changed everything. The Memoriette was a cold, dark moon near the edge of the Orion Reach. Daniel was exploring alone in his small ship, the Firelight, when he saw a crash site. He landed quickly. Fires were burning. Metal pieces were scattered across the rocky land. Inside the wreck, he found her, a young alien girl, badly hurt. Her skin glowed faintly, and her large violet eyes were filled with fear. She couldn't speak his language, but she cried softly. Daniel didn't think twice. He carried her into his ship, treated her wounds, and gave her water. He stayed by her side for 3 days. Slowly, she began to smile. They couldn't talk much, but they understood each other through simple gestures before a rescue team arrived. From the Valari, she gave Daniel a silver bracelet and placed it in his hand. Then she was gone. He never knew what happened to her. Until now, the journey begins the next day. A sleek silver transport ship landed outside Daniel's house. It had no windows and moved without sound. A Valari officer stepped out, wearing dark robes and carrying a glowing tablet. You were ready? No? The officer asked in perfect English. Daniel nodded slowly. He had so many questions, but he didn't ask. He took only a small bag and the silver bracelet, the only memory of that strange meeting so long ago. Inside the ship, everything was smooth and silent. The walls glowed with soft blue light. He was offered food and rest. The journey through space felt like a dream. Stars passed by like snowflakes. As they neared the Valari system, Daniel looked out the window for the first time in years. He saw the shining planet of Kelthar Prime, a world of tall towers, glowing rivers, and skies that changed color with time. It was like nothing he had ever seen. Arrival at Kelthar Prime, the ship landed on a floating platform above the capital. City Valari guards were waiting. They bowed as Daniel stepped out. You are an honored guest, one of them said. Please follow us. They took him to a large crystal building shaped like a flower. Inside, everything was calm and quiet. The air smelled of sweet leaves. He was given a soft robe and asked to wait. Daniel stood in front of a tall silver door. His heart beat fast. What would she look like now? Would she remember him? Why had she sent for him? The door opened slowly, and there she was. She was Aquenella. Stood at the center of the room. She wore a long robe of white and gold. A crown of shining stones rested on her head. Her eyes were the same, deep and kind. Glowing with soft violet light, she smiled when she saw him. Daniel Reeve, she said, her voice soft and musical. You came. Daniel was speechless. He took a step forward. Ayla, he asked. She walked toward him and held up her arm. On her wrist was a thin mark, the place where he had tied a bandage so long ago. You saved my life, she said, and I have never forgotten.
Wow.
Daniel felt warmth in his chest. She remembered. All these years she had remembered. I never thought I would see you again, he said quietly. Nor I, Ayla replied. But I sent for you because I need you. Not as a hero, but as a friend. A royal request later in her private garden. Filled with glowing flowers and floating lights, Ayla told Daniel more. The Valari Empire is strong, she said, but something is changing. Our people feel ... lost. The old ways no longer guide us. We need help to understand what comes next. Daniel listened carefully. But why me? He asked. I'm just a human, a teacher now. I don't know your ways. Allah looked into his eyes. You helped me when I was weak. You didn't ask for anything. You treated me with care like an equal. That is something many in my court do not understand. She paused, then added, You represent something rare to us, a human heart. I want you to help us find a new path. Daniel looked up at the twin moons rising in the sky. Maybe his adventure wasn't over after all. Closing. Scene of part 1 that night. Daniel stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. Valari ships flew silently between towers. Music drifted through the air, and above, the stars still shone. He held the silver bracelet in his hand. It's the same one she had given him long ago. The girl he had once saved was now a queen. And she had called for him, not for war, not for power, but for hope. Daniel smiled. The journey was just beginning. The sun on Kelthar Prime rose in colors Daniel had never seen before. Shades of violet, silver, and soft red painted the sky. The city below glowed like crystal. Daniel stood on the balcony of his guest room in the royal palace, watching the light touch the tall spires and sky bridges. Everything felt like a dream, but it was real. The girl he once saved was now a queen, and she had asked him to help her. A soft chime rang. The door to his room opened. A tall Valari attendant entered, bowing with respect. Queen Ayla requests your presence in the Hall of Voices, the attendant said politely. Daniel nodded. I'll be there. He wore the robe the palace had given him, deep blue with silver trim. As he walked through the halls of the palace, other Valari bowed to him. Some watched him with curiosity. Some with cold, quiet eyes. He felt like a stranger, but he held his head high. He was here for a reason. The Hall of Voices. The Hall of Voices was a great chamber made of glowing crystal. It echoed softly even when no one spoke. Hundreds of Valari nobles sat on curved seats around the room, wore robes of green, white, and gold. Their faces were calm, unreadable. At the center of the hall stood Ayla. She looked strong and graceful, but Daniel could see the weight on her shoulders. Her crown shone under the highlights as Daniel entered. A quiet voice called, the human guest, Daniel Reeve of Earth. Every head turned. The room went silent. Daniel walked slowly to the center and bowed to the queen. Allah smiled. Daniel, you honor us. Thank you, Your Majesty, Daniel replied with a respectful nod. Allah turned to the court. This is the human who saved my life when I was a child. He did not know who I was. He asked for nothing. And yet, he showed kindness and courage. There were whispers around the room. Ayla continued. I have invited him here, not for ceremony, but for wisdom. His world is young. His people are different. But they carry something we may have lost. Private conversation after the court session. Allah met Daniel in a quiet garden full of glowing trees. They walked slowly along the path, their footsteps soft on the silver stones. You looked nervous, she said gently. I was, Daniel admitted. Your people don't seem sure about me. They are proud, Ayla said, and cautious. They think of humans as wild, unpredictable. But I see more. Daniel looked at her. Why me, Ayla? I'm not a leader, not a scientist. I'm not even a soldier. She stopped walking and turned to him. Her eyes were calm and deep. You have a clear heart, she said. When I was hurt and scared, you helped me. Not because of power, not because of gain, but because it was right. That kind of soul is rare. Daniel looked down. He felt something stir in his chest, something warm and quiet. You didn't forget, he whispered. How could I? Allah smiled. You changed my life. The trouble in the Empire? They sat beside a glowing stream. Allah spoke quietly now, her voice almost a whisper. "There is a problem in the empire," she said. "Our people feel ... disconnected. Fear grows in secret places. Families do not speak as they once did. Children are confused. Leaders give empty speeches." "What kind of problem?" Daniel asked. "It is not war. It is not sickness. It is ... silence." Allah touched her head gently. "Our telepathic bond, the mental link all Valaris share, is weakening." Daniel sat up. "You mean your people are losing their ability to connect minds?" She nodded. "Yes. Slowly but surely. And no one knows why." Daniel! "I cannot," she said. "If the Empire learns the truth, fear will spread. There will be panic, maybe even rebellion. We are built on harmony. If the harmony breaks, so does everything." Daniel understood. It was like losing a voice in a world built on song. "What can I do?" he asked. "You can help us see with new eyes," Ayla said. "Sometimes when the mirror breaks, we need someone from outside to help rebuild it." The Queen's council that evening, Allah introduced Daniel to her private council, a group of trusted advisors who knew about the crisis. They met in a small round chamber, hidden beneath the palace. There were only 6 members, including Ayla. Each one had a unique role: a scientist, a historian, a healer, a technology expert, and a cultural guide. The scientist, Taya, explained more. "For generations, our minds have linked from birth," he said. "Thoughts flow easily. But now, the young feel alone. The connection fades." "Could it be something environmental?" Daniel asked. "A change in the planet?" "We've searched. We found nothing," said the healer. Daniel looked at the historian. "Have there been times like this before?" The historian, a quiet Valari named Ession, hesitated. "There are old records, stories of dark cycles, times of silence. They were hidden long ago." "Why?" Daniel asked. "Because we believed. We had overcome them," Sayan replied. "But maybe we were wrong." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then we need to learn from those times, not fear them." Whispers among the people in the following days. Daniel walked through the city. He spoke to artists, students, and builders. Many were polite but distant. Still, some opened up. A young Valari boy said, "I don't hear my sister's thoughts anymore. We used to talk in our heads." An old woman said, "I feel ... cold. Not in body, but in spirit. Something is missing." Daniel listened. He didn't promise miracles. He just asked questions, shared stories, and made them feel seen. Night, he returned to Allah and shared what he learned. "The people are scared," he said, "but they don't want to lose hope." Allah nodded. "Then we must give them a reason to believe." A spark of understanding one day while sitting with Tayer the scientist. Daniel had an idea. What if the problem isn't the mind, but the meaning? He asked. TEY, or looked confused. In humans, Daniel said, we connect with others through voice, story, touch. If one path fails, we try another. Maybe your people depend too much on one way of connecting. Tayer sat up. You mean ... we must adapt? Yes, Daniel said. Maybe the bond isn't broken. Maybe it's changing. That idea spread through the council like fire. It was not an answer, but it was a beginning. The Queen's promise on the final day of the week. Isla stood again in the Hall of Voices. Daniel stood beside her. My people, she said, the future calls us. We do not know all the answers, but we must walk forward. I have brought this human among us, not to lead, but to help us see. Not to fix us, but to remind us who we are. The hall was quiet, but the silence felt different now. Not cold, just waiting. Daniel stepped forward. I am not Valari, he said, but I know what it feels like to be afraid, to feel alone. Earth. We learned that sometimes when one door closes, another opens. Not all paths are the same, but all paths can lead forward. And then something surprising happened. A young Valari girl in the crowd smiled. Others followed. Allah took Daniel's hand. Let us walk this path together. Daniel had been on Kelthar Prime for over 2 weeks now. Each day, he learned something new about the Valari people, their history, their way of life, and their silent fears. The palace was peaceful, beautiful, and full of secrets. And the biggest secret of all was the one queen Allah had shared with him, the Valari. Telepathic link was slowly disappearing. Daniel had promised to help, but he didn't know how yet. A change in the city one morning, Daniel left the palace with Tayer, the royal scientist. They walked through a busy marketplace filled with floating lanterns and music. Valari vendors sold glowing fruits and strange tools. The people moved gracefully, but Daniel noticed something odd. They didn't look at each other. Even when they walked in groups, their faces were cold and quiet. No laughter. No casual smiles. Taya noticed Daniel's frown. You see it? Don't you? Tayor asked. Daniel nodded. Yes, it's like they've forgotten how to connect. We used to talk with our minds, Tayor said. Smile, a word, a gesture. They were extra. Now, those extras are all we have, and many don't know how to use them. Daniel sighed. Humans lose things too. But when we do, we adapt. We create new ways to live. Tayor smiled faintly. That is what the Queen hopes you'll help us do. The secret library that evening, Allah called Daniel into a quiet chamber. It was deep below the palace, guarded by 2 silent warriors. This place is not known to most, she said as the doors opened. Inside was a hidden library, old, dusty, and filled with glowing books and memory crystals. The walls were covered with symbols and images of Velar history. This is where we keep the lost knowledge, Ayla said, stories that were hidden or forgotten. Daniel stepped inside carefully. You believe the answers might be here? I hope so, Ayla replied. Together they looked through records. Some were thousands of years old. They found stories of past quiet ages, times when the telepathic bond had weakened before. The stories were short and unclear. They spoke of a sleeping sun, shadows in the light, and the silence before the bloom. Daniel took notes. Wasn't a scientist, but he knew stories always had truth buried inside. Then, found something strange. The record of the first silence was an old book, almost falling apart. Inside was a drawing, a star surrounded by rings. Of light, the words beside it read, When the second sun sleeps, the mind's dim. Not sickness, not death, but forgetting. The light will fade, and the bond will break, unless a new light is found. Daniel looked at Ayla. Do your people have 2 sons? Not anymore, she said quietly. Long ago, our system had 2 stars. One became quiet, dormant. We still orbit the living one. The second is cold, but not dead. Daniel stared at the words. Could that be it? Could the second sun be affecting the bond? Allah's eyes lit up. No one ever thought of that. A hidden fear Daniel and Allah brought the idea too. The secret council, Tayer ran tests. Sayan, the historian, found more old clues. It wasn't clear yet, but a new theory was forming. The Valeri's mental link might be tied to the energy patterns from both suns. And now, that pattern had changed. But the council had another problem. If this becomes public knowledge, said the healer, the people might panic. They will not understand science. They will only feel fear. And if we do nothing, Daniel asked, the fear will grow in silence, the queen thought deeply. Then we must find a way to share the truth, without creating fear. Daniel agreed. Let them see that change is not the end, it can be a new beginning. The quiet rebellion. Late one night, Daniel walked alone through a lower part of the city. He wore a simple robe and no guards followed him. With his own eyes, not from palace windows, he heard a voice behind a wall. Soft, worried. "We are losing our minds," said one voice. "No, we are losing our soul," said another. "The queen hides it. She knows." Daniel kept walking, his heart heavy. There were rumors now, whispers of rebellion. Fear had taken root, the queen's burden back in the palace. Ayla stood alone in her private chamber looking at the stars. Daniel entered quietly. "You heard the voices too?" she asked. He nodded. "They are afraid," she said, "and I don't know how to stop it." Daniel walked beside her. "You don't have to stop fear," he said. "You have to lead through it." Ella turned to him, her eyes filled with sadness. "You make it sound easy. It's not," Daniel replied. "But you're not alone anymore." She smiled faintly. "You saved me once, Daniel. I didn't realize you'd save me again." A plan is born the next day. The council gathered. Daniel shared an idea. "Let us not hide the truth. Let us teach it slowly, carefully, through story, through song, through art." Sion, the historian, agreed. "Valari learned through beauty. We can turn truth into something they can hold." Added, "And I can build a model, something visual, to show how the suns work, how the energy changes." Allah looked around. "Then it begins today. We share not only the problem, but also the hope." The garden speech in, the Queen's private garden, a group of artists, students, and young leaders gathered. Allah stood beside Daniel. The air was calm. Flowers glowed softly. "My people," she said, "we live in a time of change. Our minds feel different. Our bonds weaker. This is not shameful. It is natural." Gasps rose. A few eyes widened. But Ayla raised her hand. "We are not broken. We are growing." She gestured to Daniel. "This human reminded me that strength is not holding the past. It is building the future." Daniel stepped forward. "Your minds are not closing. They are evolving. Maybe this is your next step, and you're not alone." Silence followed, then applause, soft, gentle, but real. The Queen's question later that night. La and Daniel walked the palace halls alone. "You've changed us already," she said. "You've changed me too," Daniel replied. Ayla stopped and looked at him. "Do you ever wish we had more time?" "Back then, ... on that moon." Daniel smiled. "I thought I'd never see you again." She held his hand gently. "But you did. Now you're here beside me." He nodded, "And I'm not leaving yet." Closing scene of part 3 far above. The palace, the twin suns shone together, one bright, one dark. But something was happening. A faint shimmer began to dance between them, like a bridge of light. Tey or watched the sky from his lab. He smiled. Maybe the silence. A is only the start of a new song. The twin suns of Kelthar Prime rose slowly over the capital city. One burned bright as always. The second, dark and quiet, gave off a faint shimmer. It looked lifeless, yet something was changing. Inside the royal palace, Queen Ayla stood by the window. Her hands were folded behind her back. Her mind was full of thoughts, of hope, of fear, and of one man who had brought light in a time of darkness. Daniel Reeve, the first step forward. Dayla and Daniel had shared the truth with her people. They had spoken openly in gardens and schools. In music halls, not all Valari understood. Something had begun, a spark. Daniel spent his mornings with Tayer and the science team. They built a large model of the two suns. It showed how their energies moved and how those waves affected the Valaris telepathic bond. The model wasn't perfect, but it made sense. People could see it. "It's like a storm we can't feel," Daniel explained to a crowd one day. "The quiet sun is not dead. It's sleeping. And when it shifts, it changes your minds." The people listened. Some were curious. Some were afraid. Some were still silent. But more and more came to listen each day. New ways to connect. Ella watched. the changes carefully. She ordered schools to begin teaching communication skills, not just mind to mind, but voice to voice, touch, art, movement. For the Valari, this was new, strange. Many found it hard. Daniel offered help. He taught classes where students made stories with words and pictures, showed them how humans shared feelings through writing, music, and even jokes. The students laughed a real open laugh when Daniel taught them how to tell funny Earth stories. "I never knew you could smile like that without a mind link," one Valari boy said. Daniel smiled back. "We've done it for thousands of years." Slowly, the Valari learned how to be more human. And in return, Daniel learned to understand their silence, their stillness, their grace, a whisper of trouble, but not everyone was pleased. In a dark hall of the old city, a group of nobles met in secret. "He is changing us," said one. "The queen lets him speak too much." "We were strong before," another said. "Why must we copy the humans?" A third noble, older and sharper, said quietly, "If the bond breaks forever, what are we? Nothing. We must hold to the old ways." There were nods. They began to plan. A moment of peace back in the palace garden. Daniel sat beside Ayla. A soft wind moved through the glowing trees. Flowers opened gently in the night air. "I never thought I'd lead change for a whole empire," Daniel said. "You already changed one life," Ayla replied. "Now it's just a bigger circle." She paused, then looked at him closely. "Do you ever miss Earth?" "Sometimes," he said. "I miss the oceans, the smell of rain, my old home. But this place feels like home now too." She smiled. "I'm glad." Their hands touched. For a moment, there was silence. Not cold silence, but peaceful. An attempt to divide the next day as Daniel walked through a city square. A group of Valari nobles confronted him. Their robes were dark, and their faces showed no warmth. "You speak of change," one said. "But we ask, who gave you the right?" Daniel stayed calm. "No one. I was asked to help. Never forced anything." "You are not one of us," another said. "You weaken us with soft words." Daniel looked around. A crowd was gathering. "I came to help," he said simply, "because I care. Because I believe you can grow stronger, not by fear, but by choice." A few in the crowd nodded. A few walked away. The nobles left, but not before whispering, "This is not over." Valari in human minds that night. Daniel met with Tayer and Ayla in the secret council chamber. "We need more than words now," Tayer said. "Something to prove our minds can survive, even without the bond." Daniel had an idea. "Let me try something," he said. He asked Ayla's permission to share one of Earth's ancient mental training techniques. Deep emotional focus. Something humans use to calm their minds and connect with others, even across pain or distance. The Valari called it strange. But interesting. Daniel sat with a small group. They closed their eyes. He spoke slowly, teaching them how to breathe, how to imagine light, how to listen, not with the mind link, but with the heart. For some it worked. A young girl cried afterward, "I felt my mother's voice, ... in my memory." Allah was moved. "You are teaching us to remember in new ways." A surprise visit one afternoon. A human ship arrived from Earth. It carried a few diplomats, curious about why the Valari Queen had called Daniel. Among them was his old friend, Captain Hannah Brooks. "I couldn't believe it when I heard," Hannah said with a smile. "You working with royalty?" Daniel laughed. "Yeah, I'm surprised too." The Valari allowed the humans to share stories, art, and history. The two species began to trade knowledge. Not weapons, not politics, but culture. One Valari poet wrote, "The humans do not walk in straight lines, but they reach the stars anyway." The day of unity to show the people that fear could become. Hope, Allah, and Daniel planned a festival, a day of music, shared stories, and memory. On the day of unity, the city was filled with light. Songs were sung in Valarian English. Paintings covered the sky bridges. Children told tales of old Valari queens and brave human travelers. In the center of the plaza, Daniel stood beside Ayla. "This is not the end of the Valari," she said. "It is the next chapter." And Daniel added, "You are not alone. The bond between your people may change, but the bond between hearts never breaks." The choice later, under the moonlight, Ayla and Daniel walked through the garden one more time. "You've done more than I ever hoped," she said. "You've been brave," he replied. She stopped. Her eyes were soft but serious. "There is one thing more I wish," she said. "Stay. Not as a guest. Not as an outsider. Stay with me. Not as a queen, but as Allah." Daniel didn't speak for a moment. Then he nodded. "I will." Shh. She smiled. And this time, no words, no link, no voice was needed. Just silence, warm, peaceful. Full of meaning, closing scene of part 4 high above, the twin suns glowed. One bright, one still dim, but now with a faint light awakening from within, and across the city, Valari minds no longer feared the silence, because they had found a new spark, a human spark. The skies of Kelthar Prime were bright with soft light. The twin suns, once so different, now shone together, not equally, but in harmony. The cold sun, long thought lifeless, gave off a faint glow, like a candle waking from sleep, below the shining skies. The Valari people were changing, slowly, gently, but truly. And at the heart of it all was one human man, Daniel Reeve. Once an explorer, then a teacher. Now a bridge between worlds, a new beginning. It had been 3 months since the Day of Unity. The festival brought humans and Valari together like never before. Art, music, and stories flowed between them. People began to smile again. Learned new ways to talk, to share, to feel. Even those who once feared change were beginning to accept it. Daniel walked through the palace gardens with quiet pride. He didn't wear a royal robe, still dressed simply, like the man he had always been. But now, people greeted him with deep respect. "Peace to you." Daniel Reeve, the palace guards would say, the one who lit the path. The children whispered, he didn't ask for titles, he didn't want power, but his actions had spoken louder than any crown. The council of lighting a newly built hall. High above the city, a council of Valarian humans met for the first time. They sat in a round circle, no one higher, no one lower. They called it the Council of Light. Queen Ayla sat beside Daniel. Her presence was calm, powerful, and gentle. "We are not here to lead with control," Ayla said. "We are here to listen, to learn, and to share." Daniel spoke next. "When I first came to Kelthar, I thought I was just a guest. You showed me trust. And I gave what I could, not strength or science, but something simple. Understanding." The others nodded. The council agreed to start peaceful projects, shared schools, science programs, and cultural exchanges. No weapons, no armies. Just connection. It was the first time in Valari history that their leaders sat in full equality with another species. A message from Earth one day. Daniel received a message from Earth. It was from the United Planetary Council, the organization that managed peaceful exploration. They invited Daniel to return to Earth to speak about his work with the Valari. It was a great honor. The message ended with the words, "You represent the best of us." Daniel sat with Ayla in her quiet chamber. He told her about the message. "You should go," she said softly. "Your world needs to hear your voice." Nodded. "I will go, but only for a short time." She looked into his eyes. "And when you return," he smiled, "I will come home." The farewell fleddy great crowd gathered to watch Daniel's ship rise into the skies. He stood beside Ayla, one last time before leaving. The air was warm. The twin suns glowed above. "You once gave me life," Ayla said quietly. "Now you've given hope to my people." Daniel touched the bracelet she still wore, the one he had given her as a child. "And you gave me purpose." The ship rose. Slowly, flying toward the stars. Allah watched until it vanished. But her heart was calm. She knew he would return. The speech on Earth. When Daniel reached Earth, he was welcomed as a hero. People wanted to know what he had done, what he had said. What power he had used to change a mighty alien empire. Daniel stood before a grand hall filled with leaders, teachers, explorers, and students. He spoke with quiet strength. "I didn't bring power," he said. "I brought presence. I didn't solve a problem with machines or weapons. I solved it with listening. I told the story of Ayla, of her pain, her strength, her faith in something new. We humans often think we are small in this big galaxy," he said. "But we forget that even a small light can guide a whole world." The hall was silent. Then applause rang like thunder, returning to Kelthar Prime Daniels. Ship returned weeks later. The moment he stepped out, Queen Ayla was waiting. She didn't speak. She simply walked forward and hugged him like an old friend, like someone who had waited patiently without doubt. "I missed you," she whispered. "I missed you more." He replied. The gift of the queen that evening, Allah called Daniel into a quiet chamber lit by soft golden light. A long table stood in the center, and on it rested a small, glowing box. "This is for you," she said. Daniel opened it slowly. Inside was a golden starstone, a rare Valari crystal, used only in royal traditions. It was shaped like a heart, with two small suns carved inside. Ayla spoke softly. "This is not a gift from a queen," she said. "It is a gift from Ayla, the girl you once saved. The woman you stood beside. It's the one who no longer wants to walk alone." Daniel looked at her. She continued, her voice trembling gently. "In our way, offering this stone means one thing. I choose to walk life beside you, not as a ruler, but as a partner. If you accept ... I will be honored." Daniel's heart filled with warmth. He reached out and took her hand. "I accept," he said. A new chapter news of the bond between Ayla and Daniel spread across the planet. It wasn't just love. It was a symbol of something more. The Valari learned that connection could grow across distance, across difference, across species. They called it the new bond, and they welcomed it. A new statue was built in the capital square. It showed a young human offering a silver bracelet to a wounded alien girl. Below it, the words read, "Kindness is the strongest force in the galaxy." The final scene years later, Daniel stood on a balcony of the palace. Children laughed. In the gardens below, Allah stood beside him, her hand in his. The twin suns shone above, one strong, one soft. But now they danced together in the sky, and so did two hearts, human and Valeri. Daniel looked into the horizon. "I never thought saving one life would lead to all this," he said. Allah smiled. "I never thought I'd love the man who changed my world." He smiled back, but deep inside he knew the truth. It wasn't the crown, it wasn't the stars. It was the quiet moment when he made a choice to care, to help, to give, and that choice lit a galaxy.